Good to see you today. I'm out here after a thunderstorm has rolled through. We've got quite a bit of water coming through the culverts, and what we're doing is we're going to talk about water quality. So here I have a nitrate testing kit, and we're taking a sample. So we're going to take a look at what the nitrates are in this stream. Here we are in June 10th, 2026, and we're just going to look at these nitrates, and then we're going to walk up over the hill and take a look at what we see in terms of where this water is coming from. So let's see here. Go ahead and hold it up. Let's look at this. Okay, so here we have this nitrate level, which is climbing up above 10, 20. Is it a 50 parts per million? Or is it 20? Somewhere in that range, between 20 and 50. All right, I'm gonna talk about that a little bit here as we come up the hill. So something I want you to think about is these nitrate levels above 10 parts per million are considered very dangerous to young children and pregnant mothers and elderly. Okay, so nitrate levels that are harmful to the health of people are above 10 parts per million. And yet we see these levels are higher, way higher than what's appropriate for Iowa's waterways. Now come up over the hill. We'll take a look at really where this water is coming off of and why this might be the case. All right, we had several inches of rain that came through this afternoon. So water's been gushing through here all day long, and so as I grapple with that, I think to myself, like, well, maybe all the nitrates, when we talk about nitrates, we're talking about nitrogen, hog manure, urea, anhydrous ammonia, all the things that go on a corn crop in terms of that nitrogen source. They're measured in nitrates. But I thought, well, maybe they would have all washed away by now. The water has been flowing in the millions of gallons all afternoon long through this culvert. But as you can see, the nitrate levels are still like absolutely inappropriately sky high. So as we look across this field here, what we've got is a wheat field, which has been harvested, and then soybeans were planted in. A nice waterway with a buffer on both sides of the creek. We've got 50 foot on one side, 30 foot on another. So this seems like it would be appropriate, right? Like Iowa has devoted an enormous amount of resources in the $20 million range over the last few years towards buffering these streams. As you can see, it does not do what it needs to do. We've had this policy of just encouraging farmers to use the wide buffers, to use practices like no-till to manage their nitrogen use by waiting till spring to apply anhydrous ammonia and leaving it up to the farmer. The question is, these levels cannot be maintained using the practices that we've been using. We've got to do things differently. That's what I'm coming around to, but that's not what this video is about. We can talk about that another time. Let's continue to look at this field here. So we have a corn crop growing, and the corn crop was probably soybeans last year, and so it has had nitrogen applied. It may have been applied as fall anhydrous, in which case that has negative consequences. We could just make that about the use of fall anhydrous ammonia and how harmful that is to the environment, but that's a long conversation. But it could have been fall applied anhydrous ammonia. It could be that in the spring they applied anhydrous ammonia, or it could be that they are using urea or hog manure. As we turn over here, we see hog buildings. So every hog building has a management plan. So within 80 acres of a building, usually the fields are in that management plan. I don't know if that is the case here, but manure is another potential source of that nitrogen. The question is, all those nitrogen sources that I named are can be used and managed in a way that minimizes its impact, but that is exactly what we have, and we see completely inappropriate levels of nitrate. We could also make this an entire separate little edition about the alternative ways that we could manage that nitrogen that have to do with regenerative agriculture, which would not be nearly as harmful. They would involve, you know, growing your nitrogen as alfalfa. They could involve using green manure, which is plowed down alfalfa. It could be using your manure that is managed in a way that goes on at other times of the year. It has cover crops growing once you put on the manure. That way you're uptaking more of it. Like these alternative regenerative agriculture things. Again, that's a rabbit hole. But let's see, if we finish this up, I just want to kind of wrap it up. This field over here is then something else going on. A wheat field that is now in soybeans. So there would not have been any nitrogen, manure, urea, anhydrous ammonia, none of that placed on the bean field because beans don't use nitrogen. So any nitrates coming off that side of the field would be residual nitrogen from at least a year ago, when it would have possibly been likely been a corn crop last year. So the nitrates there shouldn't be that heavy coming off. We have a crop like wheat, which would sequester nitrogen that would be in the soil. So here we're talking about a crop that could be a really wonderful third crop for Iowa. The ability to, take a year off from corn and beans, grow something like wheat. Other things in that category could be rye, millet, oats. Traditionally, when I was little, oats was a legitimate crop. So we'd have oats, and then we would have alfalfa that would come up after we'd harvest the oats. But we have the world's largest oat processor in the world here in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and they process no Iowa oats. It seems a little bit of an irony, doesn't it? Considering our issues with water quality and this two cropping system. All right, so that's wrapping it up in terms of the soybeans, which were a wheat field. We have the corn over here. We have a soybean field, similar, except it's growing into bare ground that looked like it had tillage last year. So we have a completely different scenario where we could be losing a lot of nitrates off of that because it had tillage the previous year. So in agriculture, there's many different scenarios that farmers are using, and the closest thing to regenerative, and what I'm observing in these fields around right where we're at, is the wheat with soybeans growing into it. On the farm, I've been talking about using a roller crimper to lay down rye in order to grow soybeans. And so continue to tune into that as I talk about it, because just today I was listening to a podcast where Iowa Secretary of Agriculture Mike Nigg was saying that farmers must use these resources like glyphosate. They're important tools, but I think a really nice case could be made that glyphosate is completely obsolete. There's no reason to use it. Farmers can use cover crops that they roll down to grow soybeans without use of herbicides largely. So I want to completely debunk what Secretary Saig is saying in terms of the essential component that glyphosate must play in our agricultural systems. That's a little bit ridiculous and has been misproven again and again. But I want to thank you for tuning in, and I'm going to continue to take nitrate testing in the springs. If you would like to see me do these kinds of things, share and like and respond, comment. I know I'm not going to love all the comments, but you know what? Let's make this a dialogue. So if you think that what I'm saying is completely falsehood, please respond, and then I can address that in future posts. So until then, thank you. I'm out.